So I thought maybe we were going to the Caribbean, but we are going to Israel. And you were so generous. Also last year, welcome Neva. You gave a wonderful talk about all your amazing work on neuroscience and bringing mindfulness into different communities in Israel. And the first time I attended a conference, I think it was a psychiatry maybe 20 years ago, then there was a person from Israel giving a talk on ADHD, and I sort of couldn't listen because I just imagined that this poor presenter was living in a war zone, and it was, I couldn't understand how can she think about ADHD, because it's, you know, it's only war. That's the only thing I knew from Israel at the time. And now I know that your mean age is actually higher than in Denmark. And it's you have many, it's not just what we hear in the news, and that's really good. And we just talked about the violence of attention, and violence also catch our attention, and some of the stories we hear is so biased, and I know that you are doing wonderful research, and in this place with tensions and wars going on, or conflicts, at least since I don't know how long, but then it's like a center of some of the most difficult conflicts, and you work there and you try to bring in some humanitarian work and some briefing and some good research. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
And please.
So we can start. I can start. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is NAVA LEVIT-BINNUN. I am from Israel. I'm a neuroscientist and I'm a researcher. I'm situated in a university, a private university in Israel, which is called the Interdisciplinary Center. And my main research in the last few years is really situated on understanding mechanisms of positive qualities of mind related to well-being and mental health and positive mental health, but also to really qualities of mind that can support social change and peacefulness. 11 years ago, I founded a dissemination center, social dissemination center that's called the Muda Institute for Mindfulness, Science, and Society, which is Muda in Hebrew means to be aware. And we have been working the last 11 years to really bring the science of mindfulness to Israeli society. We are mainly doing it in a few arms, a few routes. One of them is through education. We have a big project that's called the Purple School Project, which is a whole school approach where we bring mindfulness and social emotional learning based approaches to Israeli schools, and really try to bring and really try to build curricula and ways to help schools transform, which people that are, if there are people here in the audience that are working in education, and it's really very challenging although there's a lot of interest in mindfulness and social emotional learning, really helping schools transform and bring these the mindfulness and social emotional learning qualities into the whole to the school culture, to the school organization, and on all levels is really challenging and very interesting to find ways to do that. So that is part of our work. I will not talk about it today so much. And another part of our work, as Loni said, is really trying to bring to find ways to bring mindfulness into different parts of Israeli society. We've been we brought into Israel the training of MBSR and MBCT teacher training, and we've been training more than 200 already trainers, which in Israel is a lot. You know, Israel, I know, like Lon said, is there's a lot of news coming from Israel, and sometimes people think it's a huge place, but it's actually quite a small place. From north to south, it takes about 6-7 hours, and from east to west, it takes between 20 minutes to 1 hour. So it depends where we're looking. So it's quite a small place, yet a lot of diversity, a lot of different groups and cultures. And, you know, in many aspects, there's a lot of suffering there, you know, because of the thousands of years of causes and conditions of religions and longings and ideas and ideologies that are all somehow concentrated in this small area. As well as a lot of immigration of different groups, especially Jewish groups that come from different places all over the world. There's a lot of groups in Israel. And although we've been working with mindfulness in Israel for more than 10 years, and as I said, have been training trainers, and these trainers are working in Israel in different places. When we actually really take a look where mindfulness is accepted and acknowledged, and where people really get the benefit of mindfulness practices, we still see, like in all the world, that it's happening mostly in certain groups, the more established economically groups that are more oriented to Western culture, groups that are usually much more stronger in terms of, you know, being the dominant culture, while other groups that are either not part of the dominant culture or parts of the more peripheral social, economical, and geographical periphery groups actually don't benefit from mindfulness. Although we all understand already today, you know, the fact that there's a mindfulness conference is because we understand that mindfulness as a very large umbrella term is actually very has a lot of benefit, especially to these kinds of groups. So we're really challenged by this, and really trying to ask ourselves, how can we reach all kinds of different groups? And we actually really are trying to, or have been creating what we call a social change, a mindfulness-based social change platform, and I think I talked about it last time, where we're trying to create like a positive feedback cycle where people from these let's say peripheral groups, let's call this peripheral groups, even if it's not really a geographical periphery, but you know, non-dominant groups, somehow are exposed to basic mindfulness practice and can go through more deeper and deeper practice programs until they can actually become by themselves mindfulness practitioners. And I'm really happy to say that this thing is working. With the COVID, there was, you know, some slowing of the program because we, like a lot of other organizations, we were also economically challenged. So we were not able to give as much as scholarships as we usually do, but still we have today, I'm happy to say that we have MBSR teachers or MBCT teachers from most of the let's say central peripheral groups in Israel, and things are rolling, and it's really nice to see. What I wanted to share with you today were two projects, or maybe even if I look at the time, maybe one project, so we'll see by the time, of our work in Israel. One is related to research that we have done a few years ago and has been published, where we showed that that Jewish students in a university which took an MBSR course just for their own, well-being and stress reduction, relative to a waitlist control, when they were exposed to difficult video clips related to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, they reacted with less anger, and they also felt less fearful of Palestinians, and they were more open to find a solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I know that in the news, and especially due to the recent developments that were in this region in May, there's a lot of opinions about what's happening in Israel. I want to invite everybody, really like Lon suggested, to the possibility that what's happening here is very, very complicated. It's really hard to identify bad and good. And I think it's more about emotions, and it's about a lot of fear, anger, a lot of distrust, a lot of prejudice, and as we know, this is exactly what mindfulness practice can help us alleviate, right? So I don't think that here in Israel there's people that just hate other people. I don't think that most of the people here have all kinds of views of the other groups, which are mostly based on negative emotions that are related to fear, and I think that and this biases significantly the way that they see the other group and their ability to interact and dialogue with other groups. But the good side about this is that if it's fear, and if it's about fear and about beliefs and about all kinds of emotions and beliefs, then this is something that we can address with mindfulness, right? And we can alleviate that, and we can help reduce this and help reduce these barriers to peace. So we've been also developing a program that's called Mind the Conflict, and it's a program that takes tools from areas of conflict transformation and nonviolent communication, and ideas from social psychology about the psychological barriers to peace, and adds the mindfulness, and we call it the mindfulness in conflict skills, so that people can understand in real time what happens to me in conflict, what happens to others in conflict, what happens in the situation, and be able to activate empathic listening, identify and express needs, transition from a conflict mindset to a reconciliation mindset, to do conflict analysis and to really try to cultivate healing relationships. And we've been working with this project. We started with in schools, and we were supposed to do Arab and Jewish schools, but because of COVID, we just had the ability to do the to work in 4 Arab schools, and we did a project with the active control, and it was really nice to see how. So it wasn't a Jewish Arab encounter, but it was a situation where teachers and students had to engage in difficult conversations and issues which are usually eliciting negative emotions, and that are usually difficult to do in schools and in classes, and usually teachers and students prefer not to go into these kind of discussions. And it was really nice to see that. I mean, I won't present all the projects, but just to say that that the main results were that both teachers and students, in comparison to the active control group, which was a different program, but without the mindfulness and contemplative skills, they felt much more competent and much more motivated and much more interested in engaging in difficult conversations. And they felt that they had the capabilities and tools to do that. And they felt more safe in these conversations, and expressed the understanding how important it is to engage in these conversations. So this was one project that I just thought to mention to show that expresses how we can really bring these contemplative skills into places of conflict resolution. And now we're working on how to develop ways to bring this program really to scale this and bring this program to different places in Israeli society. And another project, small project, and then we'll go into the practice, is more and more understanding that we have to be really sensitive of the cultural differences. And as an example, I want to tell you about a project that we're doing with Ethiopian minorities in Israel. So about 2% of Israeli population are people that came from Ethiopia. They immigrated between in the 90s after suffering major religious persecution in Ethiopia, being Jews in Ethiopia. And they had to overcome significant obstacles to integrate into Israeli society and are still not well assimilated. 53 of them report still feeling discriminated, and 43 report racial discrimination. And they still remain on average on a lower economic education level than average Israelis, and are in higher rates than average of school dropout, juvenile delinquency, and suicide and depression. And when you look at mindfulness in Israel, you don't see Ethiopian Israelis doing mindfulness. Although in the culture, there's a lot of practices, contemplative practices, that actually really resonate with mindfulness. So one of the good things that came from the COVID is understanding that we can work in Zoom. We offered in the COVID a MBSR program, Zoom-based program, MBSR for young Ethiopian Israelis. And we had a little bit more than 15 participants that were interested in this program. And the program was led by a non-Ethiopian instructor. So, you know, someone that comes from, let's say, the dominant culture, white culture. And then after that, what we do, and we do it now also with Arab groups, and we do it also with ultra-religious groups. So we really do this now with different groups in Israel. what we do is really, after that, we do a qualitative research where we interview people and we really try to understand the themes that come. We really try to extract themes that can help us understand what is the cultural adaptation of mindfulness programs to these minorities. Here we're talking about young Ethiopian Israelis. Most of them have at least 12 years of education. We found like the main takeaway from this research is that bringing mindfulness to body, emotions, and thoughts and sharing personal experiences is not a common practice in the Ethiopian Israeli community, but once they have exposed to this, it could have really healing effects. That MBSR has really potential to increase mental health and improve beneficial coping strategies among these participants based on their stories and about their experiences during the course. We found that there should be a lot of sensitivity to the type of there's different needs inside these groups. There's people that would like a homogeneous group and others which would actually want to work in a heterogeneous group. Some of them prefer an Ethiopian mindfulness instructor. Some actually feel less safe with an Ethiopian mindfulness instructor because the community is so small. And there is a need to, among these participants, to discuss racial difficulties and racial suffering, but you know, it's very important to create this condition inside the MBSI group. Now we're actually working with 2 mindfulness instructors from the Ethiopia community who just finished their training, and we're continuing to develop and create a program that's much more culturally adapted. So that's just, you know, what I wanted to share with you in a non-formal way about our work. And in terms of the practice, I thought of sharing a practice from a teacher of mine, Rob Barbea. I don't know if you heard him, but he has this book. Actually, he died this year, and unfortunately, very young. And the book is called Seeing That Freeze. And it's meditation on emptiness, independent arising. And it's a teacher that has influenced me very much. He worked a lot in Gaia House in England. And I really recommend also this book. And the book and the practice is about working really in seeing the emptiness of views and values and beliefs. So if it's okay, we'll do this practice together. Okay, good. So first of all, thank you for listening until now, and really let's take a few deep breaths and like settle into our meditative posture. And let's take a little time to settle into this meditation posture. Connect back to the group, to the body. There was a lot of words in the last 15-20 minutes, so connect to the body. We can feel our feet on the ground and feel our buttocks on the chair and our back touching the chair. And we can slowly find our breath and find an anchor in our body, in the breath process, the sensations of the breathing process of inside our bodies. So really settling into the practice. And as we would like now to bring into our meditation really questions or contemplations about basic values and beliefs, then we would maybe perhaps first want to build some kind of internal stability and strength to be able to open up to these questions. So I would like to invite you to feel the strength, to see if it's possible to allow and to tune into a sense of some kind of energetic alignment along the central axis of the body. And see if you can feel the strength that comes with this alignment of energy, including the body as a whole in your awareness. And as an alternative, you can also think of something which stimulates a sense of strength in you. And then tune into the feeling of energy in the body that is present. And when you think of this thing that stimulates a sense of strength, and allow that to align inside your body. And align the body. And let's be with this sense of internal alignment and strength for a few moments. And as we try to stay connected and supported by this sense of strength and alignment in the body, as much as we are able right now, I want to invite us to reflect on our lives and social environment, and try to bring into the mind values or beliefs that we have absorbed from the culture we belong to and from our social environment. It could be norms, social norms, social ideas of what is worth and what is not worth, or beliefs about other groups or other people that are contributing to suffering of some sort. And that might be questionable. So maybe take a moment like to really tune into some aspect of our social environment, of our culture, that is rooted in values or beliefs that may be causing some kind of suffering or contributing to some kind of suffering. And while we're doing that, let's try to notice and allow and feel as fully as we can any emotional or energetic response to what comes up. And also notice the mental responses that come up. And if it seems that something arises emotionally and needs holding and attention before continuing, let's take the time to do that right now. And when you feel ready, see if it's possible to reflect in a way that challenges this belief or value, or that recognizes that as everything in our practice, also this belief and value is a conditioned mental phenomena, and it is not inherently true, but it is conditioned by so many causes and conditions that have brought it to be established in our mind or established in our society or in the group that we belong to. And perhaps we can even try to uncover the assumptions that it rests on, or try to see it or expose it as a merely an agreed upon conventionality of a certain group. It can be driven by centuries of cultural development, or it can be driven by media, selective coverage, by all kinds of beliefs or prejudices. And again, as you do this, notice, allow, and feel as fully as you can any emotional, energetic, and mental response that comes up. And remember this sense of strength that we brought in the beginning that can help us somehow root and stabilize us in this contemplation. Sometimes this contemplation can bring anger or disgust or strong feelings, strong emotions. Is it possible to find the quality of strength within these difficult emotions and tune into that, and helping them to become a more wholesome emotion in this contemplation? In some contemplations, maybe grief or sadness arise. What does it feel like that they need right now? And can we bring this mindfulness approach, getting closer to these difficult emotions, but at the same time not neglecting the sense of strength and maybe freedom from values and beliefs? Holding these two aspects together, this maybe deeper root of seeing that can free from, that understand that we can free ourselves from these beliefs, even if they're very rooted inside us. And we can maybe start closing this contemplative practice with an awareness that this process of questioning values and beliefs is a journey. It's a journey of freedom. It's a journey of freedom that maybe we invite both people from the more dominant groups and also people from groups that are facing difficulties, and also recognizing that sometimes these divisions that we do between groups, dominant, non-dominant, privileged, non-privileged, right, wrong, strong, weak, is also part of our beliefs and values and can also be questioned. And really enjoying this prospect of a journey of freeing ourselves from these kind of mental aspects, and opening up to the way we feel right now is part of this journey to a certain freedom of ourselves and of our societies. And it's a long, long, long journey. So like maybe even bring some kind of a gratitude to the willingness to even try to take a step into this journey and understanding its difficulty and its complexity. And also its potential. So with this, I invite you to take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, open your eyes and reconnect back to the group. So I will maybe just end in saying that for me personally, both living in a society that is really facing a lot of challenges right now, and has all the extremes, both the most beautiful acts of human beings are happening right now, and also very difficult situations and difficult behaviors. And also as a social disseminator and social activist that is trying to bring mindfulness into the society, I'm opening up to the complexity of things, to my blindness. You know, I can say for myself, sometimes I have so many good intentions, and I don't see how much blindness I have in these good intentions, and how much encountering other people from other groups needs a lot of sensitivity, a lot of willingness to open up into difficult emotions from my side. Yeah, not because people I don't agree with necessarily, but because sometimes I realize on myself all kinds of things that I would want to be different. I would want to think of myself as a much more advanced person, and then I see all kinds of blindnesses coming up. And I think, you know, for people that are really, I forget the word, that the intention for freedom is really deep, then this is a very important pathway, and not to be fearful of it, to really expose all our beliefs and values, and see their emptiness, and see how they're also conditioned constructions, but also see that many of them are, you know, especially for minorities and groups that are facing a lot of prejudice and difficulty. It's not simple to get rid of these of beliefs and values for them also, right? So being very sensitive in this process and understanding that there's a long, long, long journey of healing from both sides. So I hope I was clear. Somehow after this crazy year, I feel my English is a little bit not articulated as I used to be. It's a bit tired, but I hope it contributed and it was interesting for you. And really thank you for doing this important project in Denmark. So thank you for inviting me also.
Thank you so much, Neva. I thought what came up for me was anger, and I thought it was so helpful that just what you're teaching on what you feeling just now is part of the healing and part of the journey into peace.
Yes,
that's really helpful, and also it's this aspect of just being honest on how you're feeling.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, and nice to see people that are in. Hi, Linda. People that are also doing important work in other places in the world. It's really fun. It's really nice to see you.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, and hope to meet you at some point. Yeah.